Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to the Meat and Monogamy Podcast. It has been another little while. I have a big explanation why. Announcement coming soon. But today is a very special day. And I'm so happy to be back in the Meat and Monogamy hot seat and back in the recording studio. I've really missed this. And for those of you avid listeners, this podcast is all about building our lives from that deep well of being truly nourished by what lights us up, by who we really are. And I think there's sort of no one better to come on here and talk about that than this amazing guest. So I'm so happy to invite the lovely Gwen on. Gwen, can you hear me okay? I'm just checking because I'm seeing maybe a frozen screen here.
Oh, maybe it's just my face frozen in that delightful smile because I love that intro.
Okay. Maybe just mesmerized.
I was like,
Perfectly, you moved.
okay.
Hi, welcome.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here, Liv.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you. Like, we have had quite the journey. So I'm going to just introduce you for those of you that do not know this amazing woman. So I'm going to read a little bit of a bio, and this bio just like gives me tingles because I know the journey that you have been on. Okay. So Gwen Yi is an astrologer, mentor, and guide for multidimensional women learning to embrace the art of personal evolution. And some of my girlies are going to love this. As a 3-5 manifesting generator herself, Gwen's life has been rife with pivots, U-turns, and ups and downs, including founding an empathy training company and leaving an 8-year long-term relationship. Gwen's hope is to change the narrative around personal evolution in Asia, not seeing it as shameful or irresponsible, but empowering women to reclaim their stories, past selves, and innate sovereignty through her own lived example.
It's going to be a record. 5 minutes in and I'm crying again. A bio came through me like 5 minutes before this as I was telling Liv. So it's really beautiful to have it mirrored back to me by Liv herself. So thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I feel it. I feel it deeply. Like, this is, as everybody's going to hear today, you've had such a stunning journey. And we've had a very particular journey together. So I'm really excited to have you on. And especially now, this is a special time for you, you're going to find out. So we're not going to give too much away right away, but we're going to find out why is this a special time.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. So just to acknowledge that we've actually known each other quite a long time, haven't we? We've known each other through a whole different world. We knew each other through a beloved community called Sandbox. And so some people listening, may also know us through Sandbox. So we've known each other a long time. But it was only in the last year, so sort of the last 6 months, where we actually came together more intimately. And so Gwen was a comeback client. So Gwen took the comeback, which was my flagship journey, the 3-month flagship journey that I work with women through transition. And we started working together at the end of last year, and we finished a couple of months ago. And so we've had this kind of incredibly rich journey, and then we've had a bit of integration. And so we're coming back today, with a bit of space in between to go back and like really talk about what that was like, and then talk about where you are now. And I was so excited for this because I love what you stand for, and I think that you have such a amazing story that I think that so many people that listen to this podcast, so many women especially, are going to resonate with. So let's just jump right in and let's like start at the beginning. And let's talk about like where you were before we began. So like, let's sort of set the scene here of like, what was happening in your life when you reached out to me initially? Like, where were you when you first reached out? Like, can you remember?
I actually reread my intake form because that version of me, which is very on brand, feels like lifetimes ago, even though it was just last November. Long story short, I was in a season of my life where I was finally rooted for the first time. So I'm recording this in, I guess, my first home. Like I've moved 8 times over the past 8 years, right? Very tumultuous kind of like living journey. And, I had just moved into a permanent home, I think like about 2 months before I reached out to you. And the lead up to that was, I was an astrologer. I had been a full-time astrologer for about like 2 years at that point, but I felt like I was falling out of love with the craft. Now I realized different, which I will share later. It wasn't that I was falling out of love, but I was kind of outgrowing the container that I had put myself in, right? So I was like, I thought I was just an astrologer and kind of discarded every other identity and hat I had worn, in the years prior to that, which I've realized is something that, women like me tend to do. So I had basically discarded my past selves. I had basically found myself in a place of rooting for the first time in a very long time. And so I guess in that inner instability, contained by that external stability, I was finally able to invest in myself. And so I think that was the, very rich combination of the two things that led me to reach out to you.
Yes. Okay, so it's like certain conditions that were like finally in place after a lot of moving around.
Yes.
You're finally rooted and you're finally ready.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and I love what you say there about the kind of like, obviously now you have the privilege of the wisdom of today, but back then you were like, there's this, you're like boxed in by this identity of the astrologer. And can you remember, like what you were longing for? Like what did that version of you deeply want?
So on paper, I had said I wanted structure.
Yeah.
But I realized what I was really longing for was authority, or I think specifically sovereignty, which is a big piece of the work that we had done through self-trust. Realizing that literally the answers do not exist outside of me, and all the ways that I had been, I guess, disempowering myself, saying that, oh, like I'm in this new house now, I am trying to rebuild my life now, but I don't know what to do. And it was just this kind of almost like this cyclone of thoughts just constantly like ripping through my head. Like, I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know. But it's like, do I really not know? Or did I just need it to clear the noise and drop back into my knowing, which is honestly a very big part of the work we did together.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know so many women will relate to that, and we'll talk more about that, because that like coming back to trusting yourself over and over again is such a big part of the work. And I have this real memory of, I remember that first conversation we had, that, beautiful deep dive we had to begin. And then I remember, that you were, there was so much clarity. You were like, I feel so clear that I want to. There was also, you had that hesitation. There was like a lot of fear, and it was like a difficult thing to do and like show up and support yourself and invest in yourself. And, I remember it being a pretty big thing. And so can you just share a bit more about that? Because I think other listeners are really going to relate to the feeling of like, you're ready, but there's just so much that you need to sort of work through to actually take the leap into getting support.
So lately I've been really sitting with the idea of initiation. I think I can't attribute it to a specific person, but I think it's just been going around the spiritual community. And it's kind of like, you can't really initiate yourself. You need an elder, not necessarily by age, but an elder in terms of someone who has lived the experience that you wish to live through to initiate you into the experience. And I'm getting chills as I say this, because I think the tipping point of what made me say yes to you Liv, is that you were so open in your journey of kind of having like burned down your life in Paris and then, you know, moving home, like choosing to rebuild a life that was more true to you. And, you know, I think seeing that and knowing that this woman has done it, this woman has walked through this fire. And, you know, I felt like I was in that starting point and I needed to be kind of like initiated into that journey. And so honestly, I really cannot tell you. I think I even wrote it in the form. I was like, I don't know why I'm saying yes. And it was just like a very like, you know, but I have to give the disclaimer that I had spent, you know, years learning to trust my intuition for smaller things. And I remember like the big mover was like, I had already admitted to myself, I'm ready to invest in myself. And it was like the first time that I was investing in myself at that amount. And it was like, how do I kind of like acknowledge that, but also hold myself? And I realized at that point that was my responsibility. I needed to hold myself through the fear of crossing the threshold because I knew that the initiation was waiting for me. Oh, I remember now. There was a very specific moment because I'm an astrologer. I work in 6-month cycles. And I still remember the day I said yes to the deep dive with you was the new moon. So my astro girlies will know. You will see kind of like the results of it in the 6 months time at the full moon. So I remember very clearly thinking to myself, if I let this opportunity go, the same way that I would have let many opportunities go in the past out of my fear, do I want to be in the exact same position that I am now 6 months later at the full moon? Yeah, it was a very visceral image. And I remember like, fuck no, of course I don't want to be here. Like the discomfort of like, you know, just like I was already like trying to break free of the cocoon. I was like, I'm ready, let me out. I just don't know where to go. Yeah, so I think that was the tipping point for me.
I have chills because I so understand, you know, where like you're on the edge, right? You're on the edge of saying yes to something that you know is going to change your life. You don't know in what way. You're like hoping for something where you're like, I don't know, but I'm feeling really called for this.
Yes.
And, you know, there is going to be that part that doesn't necessarily want that change and is going to be like, well, we can just carry on. You know, we could carry on. We could just say as we are. And then at some point, sometimes, and not everybody can listen to this voice. And so that there's something here around your own leadership here of leading yourself and actually listening to that voice that says, no, we're actually not prepared to be in the same position in 6 months' time. We're ready now. We're not going to let them
ready now. Yeah. Very true.
We're going to measure. We're going to be like, do I want it? No, I don't. And so the only option is I'm going to dive in over here.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, do I want to be? No. Oh, damn it. No choice.
It's like we get checkmate and we're like, oh God, shit, I have to do it.
Yeah. I really felt that way with spirit. And I was like, fine, I'm just going to do it.
And I love that because it's so authentic. And, you know, I think that is such a sign. Like I personally, as somebody that holds others, and I know you hold others as well, I find that moment of somebody crossing that threshold. And as you say, it is something you need to take responsibility for. Like the invitation is there. Come on in, right? I'm a yes. Come on in. But the person has to be willing to hold themselves through that first initial initiation. And it is so a part of like almost it's like that test of like, are you going to show up when this is difficult, when it's not sort of black and white and obvious what's going to happen? Like, how will you be then? And no one can do that work for us. Like, you know, no coach is there to do that for you. The coach is there to hold the mirror, container, invite you in, hold the space, be with you while you're there, be like, I'm with you. But you have to get yourself over that line. And I find that the clients that have the experience that you had at the beginning and they're able to move themselves across have the most powerful journeys once they step in, because they have felt the cost of the transformation already. They're like, okay, it's cost me something. You know, I had to change at the door. I couldn't just walk in as the same person that I was even last week.
Yes.
Right. I've already had to change.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
that's like you're putting your chips on the table and saying, like, I'm going to bet on myself here, and I'm going to work for this. And I really remember that about you at the beginning. And I remember it being so honest, and the experience was, and that is how you are to work with. You're incredibly transparent and you're incredibly honest. Like, just gotta say, this is what's coming up for me right now. And that creates a lot of trust, right? Like, you're building trust with yourself, but we're also building trust together.
Yeah.
And so when a client is really honest with me about, I've got some stories, I've got some fears, some hesitation, great. We can talk about that, work with that.
Yeah, you can't talk about it without having, like, to make the other person responsible for it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you had a powerful entry. You came in hot. Yeah. And, once we kind of got into the work together, like, what surprised you about, when we first started working together? Like, can you remember what surprised you the most in the initial stages?
I think the experience of me, for the first time, not wanting to invite anybody else into the experience. So I'm usually someone that's very, maybe perhaps even over communicative. Like, I would, like, after the first session, if it didn't, feel right or whatever, like, I would, like, talk to the best friend, I would talk to, the other mentors, whatever, right? Like, I would kind of, like, externalize the experience. But I remember feeling just genuinely so confused because the ego or the mind that I had coming in was like, okay, we are going to address, essentially, from an imagery perspective, I thought we were going to address the top half of the ground. Like, I thought we were going to address the structural part, because that's what I felt as someone who had been, like, recently diagnosed with ADHD. I was like, okay, I thought we were going to deal with, like, the structure, teach me to make money with my business or whatever, right? But then, having said that, yes, and kind of not knowing what was to come, realizing that the journey was actually much, much deeper. And because I had not invested in such a kind of, like, powerful long-term one-on-one container before, I didn't realize that the work was actually underground or subterranean, right? And so, because I myself was confused by the experience, I also intuitively knew I shouldn't share it with anyone, which turned out to be fantastic, because it really allowed me to come into the experience through my own lens, without, like, outsourcing my, for example, let's say if I had shared about it with my mom, and my mom was like, oh my God, what do you mean she's asking you to, like, just rest, or, like, she's just asking you to, like, listen to your body, and you're paying so much money. She's a hack, like, stop paying her immediately. Like, I can totally imagine my Asian mom saying that, right? So I kind of intuitively knew, like, this had to be my own journey. Yeah. So I would say that's probably what surprised me the most, that it wasn't just at the start that I had to hold myself through it, but I was literally learning to hold myself through it, the whole thing, even if I didn't understand the process or, like, what was to come.
Yeah. Oh, so beautifully put. Yeah. So beautifully put. I love that word, subterranean. Like, it's true. We do have to kind of go beneath the surface and sort of move things around and deconstruct things underneath for the change sort of manifest externally. And it's very common to be impatient in that process and be like, nothing's happening. That's
how I felt.
Just the process. And that I love the way you framed it, because that part of, like, I'm just going to keep this for me. I'm going to protect this process. I'm going to contain it. Boundaries, that's really a beautiful gift, right? And it just sort of demonstrates you taking something seriously. And I think that's a beautiful quality.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was really learning, like, me, it was so meta in that way. Like, the whole journey was essentially you teaching me to hold myself through me holding myself. So it was just right. And I think that is the greatest gift, because that is something that I had never learned. Right. Like, if I can just go on a quick segue, like, as women, or maybe specifically, I don't know if this is a universal like experience, but for Asian women specifically, we are taught from a very early age to outsource everything. We're taught to like, always ask your teacher, your mentor, your expert, your partner, your family, your friends, like literally everyone has to have an opinion, right? And as a result, you lose sight of what the true inner voice or inner knowing or inner sovereignty is. And so my journey with you, it brought me home to myself and my body in a way that I genuinely had not experienced probably ever. And it was literally simply through the act of you saying, slow down, like just sit with that. And okay, like, and you would give me like very specific things, but it's like, bye, you're on your own. And instead of seeing it as like, oh no, I'm being abandoned here, it's like, just using that same mindset of, okay, I think I'm really being like initiated here into learning to hold myself through this.
Yeah.
Right. In a way that, again, like I said, I had never experienced before. And so I think that was the real key for me. Yeah.
It really like reminds me of, what I believe is the true cycle of womanhood and nature of womanhood. That's why I love this work so much, because, we are sort of culturally, and, I have more of a Western influence, but it's somewhat similar in the sense of, we're supposed to just sort of figure this out. No one's really teaching us how to do this. And we're taught to outsource to all these external things and markers of success, markers of sort of worth. And, the women that have held and guided me to initiate, hold myself, this internal awakening of I've got myself.
Yeah.
I trust me. I trust what I feel. I can slow down and make a decision for me. That's all been taught, shown through the embodied wisdom of other women holding me through that. And so it's so beautiful to hear you say that. This is what we're all doing here. This is a walking into a home situation, right? And it's not saying, hey, you need me forever, girl. Like I'm saying, you're a powerful woman, and like, hey, this is like the training and the reps for life, where we learn how to be with ourselves when life's happening, right? And we're freaking out, and we're like, oh my God, help, and then it's like, no, actually, what would it look like here to slow down? What would it look like here to change my perspective? And perhaps I have more choices than I thought.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps I have more here than I've been told I have. Like, it's that sort of discovery. And I can so remember, you sharing more about your background, and I would love, if you're comfortable, to talk a little bit more about the context of your life, because I know there was a big theme for us around you feeling like you had to perform strength for most of your life, and then this was a shift into like a different kind of strength, and like there was no performance. And so when I remember you talking about like you as a young child, and I would love to just ask a little bit more about that. Like, what was it like for you growing up, being encouraged to, maybe perform more than what you had to give, or, even as an adult in business and, all the years prior to this?
I think that's why the whole idea of unshaming evolution, or like unshaming personal evolution, is, I think now looking back through the lens I have right now, I had to perform not just strength, but like basically perform a version of me that had my shit together in society's eyes, because the bigness or the fullness or the multidimensionality of who I truly am could never fit just one description. And again, in Asian society, we are expected to, just have the very fixed titles of like wife, mother, corporate slave, whatever, right? And it's like, if you are anything beyond that, then like people can't place you. They can't understand how to relate to you. You literally feel like you have no place in society. And I felt that not just in society, but in my family, right? Like as the black sheep, I was very loud and rambunctious with my ADHD, but at the same time, I have a very, very deep, sweet, sensitive soul. And like all these paradoxical parts of me coexisted, but I genuinely did not know how to bring all of me to the table. And so I felt like in any situation, I was always wearing a mask, right? And I always had to perform something because, in a rambunctious situation, when I'm the life of the party, the deep sensitive side has nowhere to go. But when I'm deep and sensitive, then people are like, wait, how do I reconcile that with, the performer Gwen? So it's like, yeah. And I think this continued because I kept putting myself in situations, growing up when I tried to start my first company, and I was like putting myself in all these like kind of like investor or like startup situations where I literally had to perform competence, right? I had to like pretend like, yeah, like, I'm a, like professional lady, right? At 19 years old. And so just like continuously putting myself in situations where I had to just project a certain image, I would say, of myself. Yeah. And I think that is what made me feel so constrained by, honestly, myself. Right? Like I had put these restrictions, is that the right word, on myself of like, how do I actually show up? How do I actually present myself? And so because I got so used to like playing these parts, when I actually did need help, or when I actually did, like want to show vulnerability or like build relationships, I didn't know how to turn that off. Wow. And so it was like, I was authentic, but I was only authentic to the extent of the part of me that I was showing.
Right.
Yeah. Does that answer the question? I feel like I went into a
no, yeah. I think that what it makes me think about is like that can make it very difficult to receive support, as you say. Like it's harder to access that vulnerability when you're used to, presenting a particular part, role, mask to the world. And it is extremely courageous work to unmask, to put down that performance. It's not easy work. And, I don't think it's ever really over fully, because I think the world expects that of us. Yeah. And especially as women, I think this is complex for us. There's a lot of expectations of like how we're supposed to be. Yeah. And so I so relate to what you're saying, and this kind of learning to be held, softening from that sort of strength or that sort of identity, and actually allowing, yourself to be more supported, is a big step. And I'm curious, I know we have talked about this, like what it was like for you initially. I remember you being like, God, just to be on the other side of being coached, and like, oh my God, like I'm the one, I'm being seen, and the one being supported. And I know we talked about that in the beginning, like this is for you. Yeah. You get to be here and receive. Yeah. And this is for you. And you were like, this is a new experience for me. So just, I'd love to know, to share, if you're comfortable sharing a little bit more about like, what was it like to be supported in this way, and what have you learned about yourself in allowing it to be something that you let it in, you really let it in.
I think it's coming back to trust for me, because you were so open in your multidimensionality. I was able to trust that all those parts of me could be held. Yeah. I think that's a very big part for me specifically, because it's like, I can find a coach that's maybe very good at X and very good at Y, but could that coach hold me in all of my alphabets, right? In all of my range. And I think it's coming back to that again, like the work of learning to be held has taught me that I needed to learn how to hold myself first. I needed to learn how to accept myself first. And I could only do that through, I think, what psychologists call unconditional positive regard, meaning I could bring anything to you, like all my shit, like all the, like you said, all the messiness at the start of like, actually, I think you're a hack, I don't want to invest in you or whatever, right? Like I could bring that to you and you'd be like, I see you. It's okay. It's normal. And it's like that unconditional positive regard, which again, many of us weren't given that in childhood or in our relationships. There's nowhere that we can actually bring all of these parts of us to the table. And so I think realizing that I was able to do that with you, of course, very slowly, right? It allowed me to then do that for myself too, right? Which is the work again. So it was through the mirror of being held finally that I was like, damn, how many other places have I not been doing this for myself?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think like something that I really believe is like, it takes time to build that trust between us. And I never start a container with someone or a journey and be like, you have to trust me fully right up the front. And if you can't do this, like you have to trust to the amount that you're willing to say yes and surrender to do the container and like agree. We have an agreement. This is what what we're signing up for. And that trust in the relationship is relational. And it is built over time through every interaction we have, through every wobble, through every breakthrough. And it's earned. It's not something that's just guaranteed at the front door. I think it's something that you build. And as you say so beautifully, like, it's sort of the word I would use is this reciprocity of like, the more you trust to be held by the person in front of you, the more you're also learning to hold yourself. And then, those two things are building on one another. And, I've seen in many of my clients and in my own journey that this tends to have a profound impact, a ripple outside of the container in your other relationships. Like, have you seen that, like your capacity growing to receive? Like, have you seen that impact outside of the work, like in your relationships, in your real life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, but again, it was always back to the self, I feel, for me, because you enabled me to be more of myself, and me learning to embrace that, like just showing up as is, just showing up as me, then enabled me to bring that whole self to my other relationships, like to my family, to my friends, right? And actually, even ironically, like as time has gone by, like this is the the in-between that we had not come into contact. I broke my foot. And so I broke my foot, and I'm only just now again coming back into the fold, right, of my community. And again, me realizing how much I had been again overgiving in the past. And then realizing that, okay, if all of my priorities are naturally shaped around what other people expect of me, how do I actually, again, come back within and find out, what do I actually want to do with this one wild and precious life, right? Like, do I really want to have my schedule dictated by, my community or my friends or everything else? Because I kid you not, Liv, like my entire schedule cleared out completely when I broke my foot. And the only thing left on the agenda was, the containers that I had already committed to, and literally my own self-work, like working with myself, working on my business, coming back into myself. And so it was like, I realize now, wow, the universe will really just give you the relationships that you are meant to work on. And if you feel like there's an imbalance in your relationship, most likely it has to do with your relationship to yourself. So you got to come back in and see. If not, the universe is going to break your foot.
It is so true. It is so true. I did not know you broke your foot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How's your foot now?
It's okay. It's healing. Yeah, I think I'm about almost 2 months in at this point. And so,
Wow. Wow. It's so interesting the way we're like, what I hear is just more slowing down.
Yeah.
More space. And sometimes we need a little force.
Yeah.
We need a little like intervention from the outside to say, you know what, there's a little more, resting to be done, a little more like recalibration to be done internally. And I think this is a nice segue actually to speak about your relationship with your body, because I know that was something that we talked a lot about.
Yeah.
And the foot is, it's so interesting that the foot, the broken foot, the base of the body. What do you remember, like, if there's anything significant that jumps out for you about, like, what was your relationship before you came into the container with your body specifically?
Oh, I could talk about this for hours. I feel like this was the biggest realization for me. And it's such a big part of your magic, Liv, of teaching women to attune to their bodies as the most, almost like the most sacred guidance part of you, right? Like, again, speaking to my experience of literally outsourcing everything to everyone else, right? Like, okay, I have this commitment, so my body is exhausted, for example, but I have the commitment. I'm a congruent woman. Aren't I supposed to show up for my commitments? So again, that shame, right, of like not honoring my quickness and my multidimensionality and how quickly that things can shift for me. I could be a yes 1 second ago, but as I feel deeper into my body, I realize, what? That's actually not in alignment. But then can I then honor the congruence of learning to honor that new no, essentially, right? And so much of our work together was around that. I remember you just always asking me to tune into the natural rhythms of the body, right? I remember you giving me permission to have slower mornings, right? Or like to pour into myself first. And again, as a long time socialized workaholic, I was like, what do you mean? What? I can wake up and enjoy my coffee. You remember we talked about that? And I can take a walk. Isn't that selfish? What about my clients, right? And so I think you'll be very happy to know that, just again, through my foot, all of my structures are now completely body first. And I think I don't even work for the first entire half of the day, because I'm just so fully focused on filling my cup and doing what I want. And then naturally I realize that gives me the energy that I need to actually do my deep work. So I'm doing so much more deeper work now than I did before, when I was so again, following someone else's example of what a productive day is supposed to look like, right? Yes. Which was not in alignment with my body at all.
Yes, I love that you bring this in, because that natural rhythm, as women, we are cyclical beings, and we do not feel the same on a daily basis. And I do believe that a little structure is good. We need a little guardrails to contain the beast and sort of have life feel held. But I really remember that. I remember those conversations we had of, what if the body was guiding?
Yeah.
How would your day look? And, what would you, when we're not honoring our actual capacity or our body's sensitivity or our body's needs to eat and rest and move and all the things, we can, we jam pack the schedule and we just jump right into coaching. We haven't even had breakfast and, we go out all night and, it's so easy to lose connection and that work of returning home to the body and returning home to the natural rhythm of your body, because your body is different to my body, even if though we're both women, right? You're going to have your sort of natural rhythm of when your body likes to eat and rest and go out and right, and create and write and do the things, right? We're all different. And so it is so big to take that on, I remember, take it on, let's look at this, let's look at what actually works for you. And so I'm so happy to hear that, that's continued, because that's the foundation of your creative life, your social life, your relational life. It's you and your well-being at the center. I call it the eagle's nest, how we take care of our inner parts and our most important parts has an impact on everything else in our lives.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway from working with you, because I feel like this is such an indelible part of my self-philosophy now. It's like whenever I'm lost, whenever I'm confused, I literally now, I'm going to cry. I just close my eyes and tune in within, literally in the moment, drop in. And it's like, what do you need right now? And some people are like, oh, is it the inner child? Is it the intuition? Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just going in and finding out what it is. And then honoring that, like you said, that's the foundation. Don't shame it. Don't try to override it. Don't say oh, but I have A, B, C, D, E to do. No, right? If in that moment, that is what you need, then that is what you need. And that's okay. Yeah. Right. And then how you connect it to, like you said, it's the foundation of a creative life. Because ultimately as women, we want all the things, right? We want the creative life. We want the business. We want the success. We want the family. We want the romance, whatever. But I think you kept reminding me, like, this is literally where it all starts. Like, if you want all of that, you got to start here, which is what confused me so much at the start.
Like, what?
Because, we'll only focus on that, right? Well, like, okay, sure, whatever, I'll do the body thing, but what about this piece? You know? But what I've realized is when you do this piece enough of the body, tuning in, sovereignty, you know, which is also the work I do, as you know, then all the other pieces fall into place, but much slower than we thought. Much slower, so slow. but then I realized whatever then comes through is from an integrated place.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
I would actually love to talk about that because it's like, I think as someone, you know, I think we talked about, you're like, okay, now you're in the integration phase, right? You were like, okay, now you're integrating. And so sometimes I wonder, what does integration actually look like? I mean, maybe it's different from woman to woman. But I'm so curious, like, maybe what have you're like, you're in the interviewee seat now. Like, what have you seen in like your, you know, your clients? Like, what does integration actually look like?
Well, first I want to just say that, like, everything you're saying is around, you know, what I would call sustainable power, like teaching women how to have the power. And maybe you've had tastes of it, and maybe you've had seasons of it in the past, but most of the women I work with have struggled to maintain it, struggled to hold it. And it does all tend to lead back to the body. Like when the body can't hold it, when the body is neglected or overrode, you tend to have to go back and then attend to the body. And then, you know, that's how it's accessed. So I would describe integration as, again, connecting back to the natural rhythm and cycles of transformation and expansion and evolution. So we did a lot of, in our journey, you know, during our 3 months, we did a lot of expansion. Right? So it was a lot of, you know, letting the mask fall away and letting all aspects of your being have a space and a voice in the room. It was slowing your life down. It was, you know, a lot of very intentional learning, growing, very intentional building of muscles. So imagine you're in the gym and you're doing like a 3-month kind of training program of like really learning how to hold yourself. That's no small thing. That requires a kind of constant growing. And so once you're kind of like, you've had enough of new information and new skills, like, I'm full and I'm ready to take a couple of months to integrate everything I've learned. So the integration phase kind of looks like you're repeating.
You know? I think you mentioned.
You're waking up every day and you're maybe doing the same things. You're not necessarily seeking growth. You are processing through everything that just happened. Right. And I find that if you're more connected to the natural rhythm of your own body and your natural rhythm of, you know, even what you were saying with your 6-month arc that you tend to follow with astrology, chances are in that 6-month arc, you're going to have like a big peak, and then you're going to have like a come down, back down to integrating. And the integrating looks like you're settling into this new body, this new identity. You're letting what's changed like land fully. And I think if we constantly seek just growth and growth and growth, and we want peak experience and more, nothing tends to stick. And then it can become very exhausting and very, it can be very, what do you call, like, unsustainable, and actually can be just detrimental to what you want. And so you mentioned earlier that a part of my journey that had resonated with you, and I actually hear this a lot in the last 6 months with clients coming, is the journey of Paris and coming home. And like, if anyone watched me in Paris, you probably saw, you know, a long period of a lot of expanding. And then when I came home, it was a long period of integration. And so, you know, a lot quieter.
Right.
I was a lot more inward, and it was a lot less to say. And I was letting everything that happened digest, land, metabolize. And then in there, I'm cultivating the power for the next now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? Do you have any
Absolutely
questions about it? More questions?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Like something that's coming through for me is, a new thing that I'm giving myself permission to explore is human design. And it's something that, I have been kind of following. And I was like alluding to that in my bio, right? As a manifesting generator, the amount of time I need to integrate actually varies. And it's usually much faster than what I suspect. I suspect you're a projector. I don't know your human design, but like,
I think I'm actually not a projector. I'm like big ones. That's everyone's the same. I think I'm a generator.
Generator.
I think I'm just a straight up generator, but I'll have to double check.
Okay.
I'm definitely not a projector. Yeah.
Okay. But it's like, everyone has different cycles of how long they need to integrate. And I think because you were like composting such a huge era of your life, so the other, like the equivalent era was like so much, I guess, like smaller by comparison, like you were digesting, but I've realized like, from my experience, when I left the very, very rich, expansive one-on-one mirroring container with you, I definitely wasn't ready for another one-on-one container. But as you know, I joined a group container, which then allowed me to kind of like start to express in very safe experimental ways the ways that my identity had expanded. And it allowed it to solidify through those experiments, which is very manifesting generator of me. And then by the end of the container, and I didn't expect it, I didn't have this goal because you had taught me to not kind of like put milestones or goals on things. So I was just kind of along for the ride. But very magically, like this new iteration of self, this solidification of self, which I guess would be considered integration, emerged as that container ended. And so it was so beautiful to give myself that space without any expectation, knowing that permission slip you had given of it's just integration and it takes the amount of time it takes.
Yes, that is such a great example of really solid integration. Like the difference, like, a high touch one-to-one where we're, there's a lot of one-to-one reflection and feedback, sort of guidance, and then being like, I know I'm not ready for the next, like, I know I need a break from that. Going into a group, that is the perfect integration. As you say, you're getting to practice. I love that word, experiment. Like, you've opened all these boxes and you're like, now have a playground to play in, and like see what's landing, what feels right. Like that's a beautiful way of integrating the work.
And I don't think I would have had the trust in my body and that muscle. It's almost like a muscle, like alluding to what we were talking about before, the ability to say yes and to invest, right? Like we were talking about the scariness of that. I think if I hadn't done that work with you, I would not have had that inner knowing of saying yes to this next integration step, which turned out to be perfect for me. Like the timing was so good, right? And there was no way I would have actually, so it was again.
When I remember you telling me, what it was, and it was like this kind of calm, I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And it's such a great sign of like the right thing coming along at the right time, right? The right opportunity coming along at the right time, and trusting the emergence. I love that word as well, letting things emerge, letting things arrive. And then this like phase of, you said you got to the end of this and things are just emerging. And so let's talk about that, because I know that you've had there's been some big things happening in your world in this past few weeks. And so, what has been emerging? Like, what do you want us to know about, where you've arrived at the end of this integration period?
I'm going to cry again.
Yeah.
Like, I have reached a point in my journey where I have just literally, and I don't say this lightly, such deep, deep reverence for my past selves. Like never before. And, I share this quite openly. Like I used to struggle a lot with like self-hate, like depression. My teenage years were some of the hardest years in memory. But then, like right now, as I'm in this, I would say, I guess, reemergence journey of, well, first of all, reclaiming my name, right? So I had let go of my old username, the Asian astrologer, and kind of like just come out to the world as I am Gwen Yi, and just like owning my name, and in that act, owning the multidimensionality of who I am. You know, yes, I'm an astrologer, but I'm also a mentor. I'm also a coach. I'm also a writer. I'm a creative. I'm a swing dancer. You know, I'm like all of these things, right? And it's like, instead of compartmentalizing or like trying to choose again, like which parts of me to show at this moment, it's like, can I just be okay with, you know, just showing all of me, owning all of me? And I think that act has not only given me permission to explore other curiosities like human design, like, you know, because in the past I've been like, oh, I'm an astrologer. Why am I doing this other thing? You know, I'm just, stay in my lane. You know, I'm like, you know, the world is my oyster. The world is my lane, right?
Right.
And it's that, but also like magically, because I'm owning myself. So who is myself? It's all the past me's, all the supposed mistakes and, you know, past eras or errors, right? All the past like U-turns and you know, the, like I was transferring all of my kind of like photos from the past into a new hard drive. I didn't expect to do that during this time, but again, everything emerges at the right time. And so I came across all these like pictures from my old blog when I was like 14, 15. And when I was looking through these photos, I was just literally overcome with like this deep love for my younger self. Like, it's like unthinkable. I was like, just like this, like smiling at my screen like a crazy woman, because I was just like, oh, she's so precious. She's so precocious. You know, she's so smart. She's so witty. She's so sarcastic. Like all the things I hated about myself at that age, with the wisdom of my older self now, looking back at my younger self and genuinely feeling so much love for her. I'm not saying this to like, you know, like I genuinely feel love. And I told my mom and she started crying because she's like, I know how hard it was for you to love yourself. She keeps asking me like, what's happened? Like, how did you change? And I'm like, I don't know. I just started investing in myself, right? I started like seeing myself as someone worth investing in. And through that process, started owning myself, started loving myself, started like bringing all the parts of me back to me. I'm whole, I'm full, you know? And it's like, it's almost like a reclamation process, not just my name, right? All these parts of me. But as I bring all of them back to me, I realized that possibly was like the missing piece of what holds a lot of women back from our next step, right? Our next era, our next, you know, level of success. I had always felt like my success was like capped at one point, but now I realize like, no, I can't kind of like attribute, you know, my current situation to the past, because in the past I did not yet have all of these pieces of me back within me. And it's like, now that I am doing that, thanks so much to the work we had started together, you know, what is possible for me now when I can bring all of me to that journey.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm just so touched and moved by your like beautiful expression here. And I just want to ask you, like, what does feel possible? Like, what do you think? What is possible for you?
I'm getting chills because it's like anything is possible. And I say that with like so much childlike joy, right? It's like, you know, I, instead of like limiting myself to one tiny slide, I now have the whole playground, you know? And it's like, I get to follow my authority. I get to follow like my whims and fancies and not see that as a bad thing, but instead see it as the very sacred guidance that it is, right? It's all in the body. It's all in the self. It's all in these little nudges that we get that we have been taught to distrust, right? Like exactly like what you said, this is the eagle's nest. This is the foundation. Listen to it, right? And if you can't hear it, get a coach, get a mirror, you know, someone who can show it back to you, with so much reverence and respect, because I feel like that's really what you did. Like you just held up a very neutral, sacred mirror for me, which I've realized that's all we need as women. We just need someone to help us like get out of our bullshit and see our true sovereign selves. That's it.
Yeah.
Simple but not easy. But like that's it.
Yeah. It's such gorgeous wisdom, like what you're saying, and I'm in full agreement. It is so powerful. And I did want to ask, if you could, and you've kind of already answered it, but maybe there's more. If you were to go back to the woman who was sat there 6 months ago, and maybe there's a woman listening to this that is that woman, like what would you say to her? Like, what does she need to know? What did you need to hear at that time?
I wish someone had said this to me, which would have brought me a lot of comfort. If something is coming to you again and again that maybe in the past you haven't been ready for, because I don't know if I told you, Liv, like I wanted to work with you since 2021.
Yeah.
But I did not have the money. And I think even more than that, I didn't have the internal resources that would have allowed me to commit, as you said, right? It's like, it's about you committing to yourself first. And so I feel like if there's something coming up and it's really not letting you go, it's like, it's just like, you asked for it, you prayed for it, now it's here, It's like, I wish someone had told me things won't come up if you aren't ready. Right? Like the fact that you're like seriously considering this now, it means you're ready for this. And trust that if you are ready for this, and if it is in alignment with your highest good, you will get the whatever you need, right? The resources, the inner peace, the restructuring, whatever you want to call it. Like you will get what you need for you to complete that journey, for you to commit, right? But at the end of the day, the act of that commitment has to come from you.
Yeah.
You have to commit to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. And you say it so beautifully. Like I don't think I could have said it better than you've said it. And I hear that a lot, that some of the most beautiful journeys I've had with the women that have come in and I've had the privilege of walking with, including you, have been women that have been like, I have been wanting this for a really long time. I have trusted the journey and all the steps and my own readiness, and like, here I am now. And I love that. I think that is perfect. I think that timing is everything. And sometimes it is about, really being patient. And then, as you say, when that time does come, sometimes it is worth listening to, if something keeps coming to you, like
absolutely.
It's probably for you. So one last question before we talk a little bit about what you're up to and how people can find your amazing work and find you on online. So I don't know if you remember this, but you asked me on my birthday, I think we must have had a session like on my birthday this year. And you asked me, when do I feel the most powerful? And I want to ask you that question. Like, when do you want to feel the most powerful?
When I'm allowing truth to move through my body. Like right now, like truth is just pouring from my throat. That's also my human design. And it's like when I just allow it to happen, when I give myself spaces where, I can meet myself and someone else can meet me at this level of frequency, this is when I feel the most powerful, because I own what I say and I trust that what I say will make a difference in someone else's life.
Gorgeous. And that is such a gorgeous segue into your work, because, as you've already mentioned, you're a mentor, you're a coach, you work with women, you're an astrologer, and you're also an amazing writer. I have the privilege of reading your writing. And so what do you want us to know about where you're at? You're in this sort of comeback moment, this emergent moment, big new identity coming out. And what's on the menu right now? How can people find your work? And what do you want us to know about, what you're currently up to?
So in the interest of not giving too much away, I would say the biggest excitement right now is just, again, in owning all of me. It's also like reclaiming my name, right? So gwenyi.com used to be a personal blog that I've had for many, many years, but now I'm reclaiming that as, this is my hub. This is where all my writing will live, all my offerings will live. I do want to continue working one-on-one with women, but I'm also, being drawn to working with women in a longer term capacity, because as I've learned from our work together, this kind of transformation only really happens in a longer journey together, right? So I would say, if you are a woman listening to this and you are on the edge of your own next evolution, and you are looking for someone to walk with you in owning all of you, like in deep reverence of all your past selves, right? And bringing that into kind of like a congruent identity of who you are now and where you're going. I think that is the work, I do, that's the work Liv does, right? Like, we all bring our own flavor to these things. But I would say, yeah, specifically, if you resonate with any one of us, like, this is absolutely something that I would love to journey with you on. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, we'll have links in wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Substack or YouTube, Spotify, Apple. There will be links so you can find Gwen's beautiful work. And like, what a lovely invitation. And I know that so many women are on that cusp, right? So many women are on that cusp of, knowing that something is changing. And you've spoken so beautifully today about the power of the mirror and the power of being coached and the power of being held and guided. So for anyone listening to this that's, deeply resonated with Gwen's story, please reach out and find her and definitely follow her online on Instagram. I think you're an amazing creator online. Like, you are just so vivacious and interesting and thoughtful about the way you show up. I feel like you're a real master of that craft. So yeah, please follow Gwen. And if you're listening to this and you want to work with me, you're thinking, okay, like, I want to be in Gwen's shoes, like, I want to be guided through my own journey with Liv, then the first step is to book a deep dive. That's where the journey begins. So I will have that link, as always, in the show notes if you are ready for that. Okay, well, it has just been amazing, and I just love you so much, and I'm really deeply honored that we got to do this together. And may you continue to soar, my girl. May you continue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wanted to, this sentence dropped in. It's something I want to leave with the audience.
Yeah.
You are worth waiting for. Yeah. You are worth waiting for. So just wanted to,
Thank you.
end with that. Yeah.
And with that is gorgeous. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.